All right. Hi, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about I would say a book and publishing insight that's hiding in plain sight, which is if you want to succeed, your book actually has to be good and really good. At the end of the day, you can't get around that topic. And I can't think of a better person to be speaking about that with than Martin Leitner. He runs a company called Cavalesso, which has a really innovative approach to promoting books called book seeding, which I think is really neat. My name is Joel Pitney. I'm the host of If I'm Being Honest, straight talk about book publishing and promotion. So I'm really excited to have Martin on the show today. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Joel. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm really excited to be on your show because we met in New York at a ghostwriters conference, and
Yep.
like you mentioned before, I believe the most important thing if you want to successfully publish a book is to write a book that's really good. And I think finding the right writer, the right ghostwriter, is actually the first step and the key to that. So I'm really glad to be on your show.
That's great. And, we're going to obviously, we met at a ghostwriting conference because that's something I do also. I run Launch My Book and I'm also a ghostwriter. And that's especially for some people who may not be a writer. Maybe you're a business person, or you're a CEO of some organization, you want to write a book. Ghostwriting is often the way that you're going to get that high quality product. But there's also a lot of authors out there who may not be interested in hiring a ghostwriter. Maybe they're doing fiction, or maybe they want to try and write it themselves. And I would say the same rule applies. Whether you're hiring someone to get it great for you, or you're going to go through whatever training or developmental editing or rounds of review, getting your book right and as good as it can possibly be is absolutely probably the first through 10th step of a successful book.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I actually have a kind of a philosophy around that. And it's not actually my idea. It's a very well-known philosophy out there from a guy who wrote a book called Write Useful Books. And that is
Hmm.
most books you can divide into, two categories. Either it's a pleasure-giving book or it's a problem-solving book, right?
Interesting.
If it's a pleasure-giving book like a memoir or novel or a book that entertains, then you really have to focus on the quality of the writing, period,
Okay.
right? And whether
Yeah.
you hire a ghostwriter to do that and let them do their thing, or whether you learn that yourself. Either way, you have to really focus on the quality of the writing. But if you're solving a problem, so if you're writing a problem-solving book, um, the in my mind, the best way to get to the quality that you need for a book to sell itself by word of mouth is a better reader process, right? You have to
Okay.
take the production of the book, the writing of the book, and whether you're doing it with a writer or yourself, you have to take it through a better reader process where you're constantly getting feedback from the people that you are solving the problem for. It's kind of like a startup. It's like a lean startup approach, right? If you're going to create a product that solves a specific problem for specific people, you want to get that product to those people early, get feedback early, make sure that as you're building the product, as you're writing the book, when it's finished, all your beta readers have told you, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. That's exactly what I needed to solve my problem, right? So
Interesting.
I think that's to me, those are the two things that are the most important things when you're um, um, when you're writing a book. Um, the writing has to be really good.
Hmm.
But B, if it is also solving a problem, you got to make sure that the problem is solved, right? By the book.
Interesting. Yep. So when we're talking about the writing being good, it's the craft of writing. It's how compelling it is. Is it propulsive? Is it an exciting narrative? Does it, is the pacing good? Is the character development good?
Right,
The
right.
craft, right? And that applies to any genre. And then if you're talking about a problem solving book, which is a very large piece of nonfiction, um, I'm what I'm hearing you say is you want both. You want craft, but craft is not enough. You also
Yes,
need beta because you need to know that the problem you're solving is important to people and you're solving it in just the right way for them.
exactly. And so one of the things that I like to um, instill on my authors and also their writers is that if they are writing a problem-solving book, they should not discount that process and shortcut it. Often writers are very confident with their writing, right? And they
Sure.
know that they can write very well and they can build a great story and they can create tension and they can create, the what it needs to make it a page turner. But very often, both the author and the writer kind of overlook that at the end of the day, if you're writing a problem-solving book, the only thing that counts is did the reader get his problem solved? And
Hmm.
in order to do that, you have to test it. There's no way around testing. You have to, it's just like market testing, right? Like any startup in the tech world or anywhere, you have to get your product out to the customer as fast as possible and see is it doing its thing, right? Is it solving, is it providing the solution?
So
And
when you're developing a problem solving book in this way and you're doing the beta testing, at what point in the process are you talking about first draft of a manuscript that then gets sent out to people? Or are you talking about more taking some of the core principles and testing them? How does that work in your typical universe?
yeah, so one of the things that I do, and this is very core to the overall process when I commit to promoting a book is I do a lot of click testing out there
Mhm.
where and I do it on Meta, so where you have the ability to select
AKA
exactly the
Facebook for those who don't know.
Facebook and
Yep.
Instagram, both,
Yep.
right? For the
Right.
older and the younger generation. Um, and Meta allows you to create really targeted audiences. You can go
Mm.
after exactly the ideal target audience of your book. And so I actually do click testing of the pain statement and the solution of the problem that you're solving
Hmm.
before, or as we are even designing and planning the book, right?
The
So that,
actual writing of the book.
yeah, so that we
So in an ideal
confirm.
scenario, you might
Yeah,
take that thesis statement, right? The problem and the solution before the book's even fully fleshed out. Maybe it's in concept phase, maybe it's a proposal. And
exactly.
that's when you're testing to find out so that you can adjust the structure and narrative of the book prior to even
Yeah.
getting started.
Because there's two things, right? So the author says, well, I want to write a book that solves this problem, right?
Right.
And then there's two things you have to confirm there. A, are there really a lot of people out there that have that problem and that
Hmm.
want it solved? And
Hmm.
then, so that's one thing. And the other thing is, how do you uh, speak to these folks? Do you describe the problem and the solution so that it resonates with people, right? Those are really important marketing words
Hmm.
that you need to know if you're going to promote your book, even as you're writing your book, as you're, thinking about the chapters and thinking about the structure. You have to know how the reader thinks about this problem
Mm.
and how they think about the way out of this problem, right? So that's something that can be very easily actually click tested for a relatively small investment on the Meta platform. And the outcome is not only that you confirm what you are writing about, but you actually get leads. And that's the cool part as these people are clicking on your ads, you can get their email addresses, and you're not going to get a very high volume. You're going to get maybe 5 or 10 or 15, but those are exactly your target readers. Those are
Mm-hmm.
exactly the people that have the problem that you
Mm-hmm.
are solving.
Mm.
And then you can individually just approach these folks and say, "Hey, I'm writing a book about this, and I saw you clicked on my ad, and would you help me as a beta reader?" And
Mm.
you'd be surprised how many people will say, "Wow, that's awesome. Yes, I'll be glad to help you." And then you have your, 3, 4, or 5 beta readers. You don't really need any more. You
Mm.
don't really need more than 3, but you know that those are exactly the people that you want to write your book for. And then you start that process at the very beginning. So when you're uh, even when you're already creating the outline of the book and the first chapter, obviously these are just readers. They're not publishing experts. They're not authors. They're not editorial experts. They're just readers. So you do have to write something for them.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you just have the first chapter, uh, that's when I start the beta reading process, saying, okay, let's get this first chapter to these 3 readers,
Mm-hmm.
and they already know what problem I'm trying to solve, right? And they can tell me and the writer right away, yeah, this is a great opening for that kind of book
Mm-hmm.
that I would want to read, to solve my problem. And you really should do that with just every chapter as you're writing the book. There's certain things that you need to ask your beta readers. There's a certain process that you would go through, but it's really chapter by chapter. You would approach them. If you're writing your book over 6 months, 8 months, you're writing 10 chapters, you just go back to them so many times, and you'd be surprised every time you'll get a really great idea from at least one of those 3 readers, where you say, "Wow, yeah, that's how I can make my chapter better," or "I forgot this," or "I don't need that," or "I need to really explain this differently," etc. So it's
So
a
it's almost like I'm thinking about those. I mean, I've only seen this like on TV shows, but where they'll have product testers who go in and taste, a new variety of potato chip or like a new soda or try out a new take on the Q-tip or something. I don't know. And so you're kind of like doing that, but for your problem solving book.
Yes, exactly. And it also comes from the startup world, right? I used to be in tech, and I used to be in a startup myself.
Mm-hmm.
And in a startup, you're gonna kind of mock up the product and put it out there and sell it before it's finished, right?
Mm-hmm.
And see, what works. Uh, as well as going to customers with the unfinished product and asking them questions. Does this work for you? How
Mm-hmm.
would you do it? And it just makes a lot of it makes um it is the most obvious thing you can do when you're writing a book to make sure that the book, when it's finished,
Mm.
is going to resonate, right? Rather than just doing it in some back room and writing the whole thing, and then surprise, surprise, here it is. It's just
Right.
it's
No,
just
it's
so much.
really interesting. It's a very modern approach. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny. It's reminding me. I'm sure you've heard of Morgan Housel and his books. He wrote The Psychology of Money, which was a massive success.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
he wrote a follow up called The Art of Spending, which came out in October. And I've been listening to it. I like to listen to books when I go for walks.
Yeah.
And and he had this line because he's a very good writer, and you can tell he loves writing. Even though he's a financial guy.
Yeah.
Um, and he has this line in there that resonated with me. He's like, "Well, I write for an audience of one, which is myself.
Yes.
I want to write things that I'm interested in, that I love. I want to write in a way that I like. And there's a part of me, as a writer, as an artist, that really resonates. It's like if you can write for yourself, then that's going to be the most authentic kind of thing. but
And you know,
it's a little bit in contradiction to what you're saying. So I'm curious. I'm curious how you would respond to that.
I would say I have plenty of cases and authors and customers where that is exactly the case. Namely, let's say an author wants to publish an inspirational book about their life or their business story, right? Because a lot of these authors have truly, I mean, amazing inspirational stories. And in that case, you're not solving someone's problem. You're actually writing a book that is read for pleasure, right?
Right.
And in that case, exactly what you said is true. The most important thing is to make sure that the author, the client, does not take your wheel and lets you write exactly what you want. And I've
Right.
had this discussion many, many times in the past, right?
Right.
Where the ghostwriter comes to me and says, "Oh my God, my client wants me to write this, but it's going to be awful. This is going to destroy the whole, story flow and everything." And then I have to go back to the author and say, "You hired a very good writer for
Yep.
very good money. You gotta let them do their thing.
Right.
They are the expert. They know what to do." So there are many
Right.
there are many book genres where what you said is perfectly true, where you
Interesting.
you have to let the writer do their magic. Otherwise, you're not going to get the result. You're not going to get, what you paid for.
Right.
And
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 I
so
would say that Housel, I mean, he seems to be a master of both. I mean, especially in that first book, The Psychology of Money. It's definitely a problem-solving book, and he writes it so practically and so usefully, but he's pretty tapped in, you know. I don't and who knows, he might have done some beta testing.
Yeah, so you'd be surprised how and I think this is just because it's so intuitively right and obvious. So for example, if you read uh business books like, do you know Good to Great?
Yeah. It's
Yeah, so
fabulous.
if you look in the acknowledgments, you'll realize this guy actually wrote the book together with a whole bunch of CEOs,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
So he
Interesting.
went back and back and back to the CEOs as he was writing this book. This is not like new or unheard of. It's
Right.
just that it's kind of the obvious thing to do, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody does it.
Right. No, it makes sense.
It's
I and I haven't done it. You know, I don't think I've ever quite done it like that. I mean, I've worked with editors before, and editors often are a proxy for the audience, but not just straight beta testing. And it's
editors are not a good proxy for the audience.
well, it
So
depends. It
that's
depends. It depends.
yeah.
I feel like I've gotten advice from editors before. Acquiring editors, not just copy editors, but
Yeah,
acquiring editors at a publishing
yeah,
house that have improved the product because they were pitched a book that was one way and they'll be like, well, what if you were to tweak it a little bit like this, and then it ends up being a better product and a little bit
yeah.
more relevant to the audience.
So I'm
I've
not
also had the
discounting.
opposite happen though.
Yeah, I'm not discounting the role of the editor. I think the
Right.
the role of the editor is really important. I'm just saying you cannot count on the editor to be the better reader.
You're
It's
right.
not the same thing, right?
They're often
Uh,
and often I often find, I mean, we're talking traditional publishing here, but acquiring editors tend to be they're pretty inside. They tend to be a bit in a bubble, and things that they think aren't necessarily going to sell, or angles they have tend to be a little too elite sometimes and too literary, I guess you might say. Whereas readers tend to resonate with broader messages that an editor or a publisher might be like, well, that's already been done. That's not sophisticated enough, that kind of thing.
yeah,
A
yeah,
reader is a reader is just going to respond with their heart and their mind and their soul, right? I mean, they
yeah. The reader is going to tell you straight out, I don't understand this, or this
right,
doesn't solve my problem, or this just, was boring and I lost interest, etc.
right.
And it's just, it's a very how shall I say it? A very powerful way to force you to, produce a book that is going to be, you know, precisely written for your ideal target audience. But that only works if you pick beta readers that are precisely your target audience. A lot of authors like, let's say, entrepreneurs
Yeah.
who are, pitching their services, already have this network, right? They have already solved this problem big time for, 10, 100, 1,000 other, existing clients of theirs. And so that's a very easy pool to tap into when you're looking for beta readers, right? So
That's no, that's
that's an easy
fabulous,
way.
right? If you're doing a problem solving book and you're already a professional in that field or a thought leader in that field, that existing audience is who, yeah, that's your.
Yeah,
So
that's
what do
where you
you
go back to.
say? It's always, I find this to, sometimes it's pretty straightforward to figure out your target audience. Sometimes it's not obvious. Um, how often do you encounter a situation where you're working on a book where what the target audience is not totally clear up front and you need to sort of discover that? What's your experience there?
I think that's the standard situation, right?
Oh, okay.
That happens,
So most people
happens
come in, they're not
over and
like, they don't know
over.
exactly. They're like, we need to discover this together, kind of.
Yeah, that happens over and over. Well, it is more often than not that authors have like a hunch of what they want to write about, but it's not clear yet who exactly they're targeting and why,
Right,
right? And I
right,
think that's actually also a huge value that the ghostwriter brings to the table, right? In
right,
discovering together with the author, um, why are they writing this book and
right,
who are they helping? Right? Even if it's not a problem-solving book, even if it's just a memoir, you have to at some point figure out why are you writing this book and
right.
who are you helping. And I often do um, workshops at the beginning of a project where ideally we get together in person, author, ghostwriter, and myself to uh, nail that, to get that um, clarified and really crisp.
That's interesting. When I'm first starting out with a writing client, and whether we're working on the publishing side or if I'm working as a ghostwriter, um, I there's a metaphor. It's a theological metaphor. It comes from there's this concept of there being a God-shaped hole in your heart, and I think it came from Pascal in the
Hmm.
17th century or something like
Okay.
that. And I always feel like there's a book-shaped hole in the market or in the universe, right? And so everybody, if you have an idea, you have a story, you have something, but there's probably quite a few ways to tell it and quite a
Yeah.
few ways to shape it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I the more you can do that kind of research up front, that the more it can help your project, as opposed to trying to write a square peg and then fit it into the hole later. Um, because so for me that often takes the form of a book proposal, right? And going out there
Yeah.
thinking about target audiences, doing competitive research, trying to figure out, okay, I could maybe write this book in 7 or 8 different ways. Which one do I think would be the most compelling?
Yeah. Absolutely. That is, at the end of the day, that's probably the most important thing that you're going to do at the outset of your journey, because if you cannot figure out your target audience, you have no way to promote the book later, right? It's
Mm,
just, there's no way you
right,
can do that. And I actually the one thing that makes it, how shall I say, specific and straightforward with my processes. I'm, I start out with validating your message on Meta, right?
mm,
Meaning on Facebook and Instagram.
mm-hmm,
That means I have to create a target audience. I
mm,
cannot do that without creating a target audience. I cannot
mm-hmm.
just send the message to the whole universe. That's not going to work, and it's not going to be cost effective, right? So in order to make such a test successful, I have to be able to select an audience on Meta. And in order to select an audience on Meta, you have to tell me who that is. Are we
Right.
going after these people? What demographics, what interests, what kind of personality are we going after? And if we can't do that up front, then clearly we don't know yet who the target is of this book, and we have to work it out. We have to
Hmm.
figure it out. So,
Hmm.
so whatever I do, um, the first thing that has to happen is we have to figure out a target audience.
Mm. So this is more of like I guess more of a philosophical question, but um, I I like doing things sort of in this way. I've never done quite the crowdsourcing way, but keeping the market in mind and then writing the book strategically, I like. But I remember when I first started doing that, I had to get over something, right? And I think maybe a lot of people listening to this might feel that way too, that somehow that diminishes your creativity. If you're writing the book in a certain way or trying to write it for a market, it limits you. And creativity is something that's unlimited and it comes from your heart. Um, I'm curious, and I've had plenty of experiences that completely contradict that, so I don't feel that way anymore. But I'm curious if you encounter that ever. People sort of feeling like, well, that's cool and all, and I bet it works, but that's not how I want to do it because that's not my creative thing.
Yeah, and I absolutely. So for example, um, if if we're doing a beta reader process, that is often something that a writer who has never done it before is going to be very suspicious of. Like, what? You're going to have some guy out there, somebody out there who doesn't know how to write a book, tell me how to write. So that is a common reaction. I would say that um, the creativity is absolutely needed, but your creativity is going to be um wasted if you do not define the target audience,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm.
Without
Right.
defining the target audience, your creativity is just going to go all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, if and I'm sure you know this from, from previous projects that you've done. You can get a very excited author who wants to write a book, but if they cannot figure out who to write it for and why, it's, you're going to have a lot of fun writing it. You can
Right.
have a lot of fun writing it. You can end up with a result that's totally different from where you set out, and it can still be a good result, but only if you, on that journey, figured out who you're writing for and why.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you have to follow you have to inhibit that creativity up front. I've seen cases where authors, maybe took a year or so or more to write their book, and the end result was really good. And they
Yeah.
only discovered at the very, in the last third of the journey, who they're writing it for and why, right?
Interesting.
That can happen
They
too.
kind of
It's
wrote their
just,
way into it.
yes, I've seen that happen. Now, that's
Interesting.
not how I would suggest you do it, or but
Right.
but it but it's a perfectly valid situation and a perfectly valid approach. If someone is writing a book just because, it's like planting a tree, it's something that they have made, put on their bucket list, and they have the resources to do it, and that's, one of their goals, and they're not really sure why, who they're going to write for, and why. that can be discovered as part of as part of a book project. That's perfectly valid.
Yeah. Oh, that's
That's
interesting.
perfectly valid. All I'm saying is that might be an approach that's more applicable to books like memoirs, right?
The pleasure books,
The
the
pleasure
ple
books.
the pleasure
But
giving books. Yeah.
if your goal is to solve a specific problem
Mm-hmm.
that certain people have, then obviously that's not the approach you would take.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't like meander through, creative ways and arrive at a certain point. You'd be very specific up front. This is, what I want to do. I
Mm-hmm.
want to solve this problem for these people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, if you're taking that route, if it's that kind of book, I think your creativity has to be, you know, uh, guided towards that direction, anyways, right?
Well,
It's
creativity is often enhanced by limitations.
Yeah,
That's what I
absolutely.
find. As long as you get over that, if you have a false belief about limitations inhibiting, you can it can really accelerate your creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, because creativity is mysterious, right? I mean, you kind of if you give, you just it's almost like a river. It's like water. You just need to give it a channel, and it'll keep going.
Yeah, and I think that um, that is probably the one of the big reasons why you want to, you want to make sure you have the right writer for your book, because the writer will bring that creativity and that energy that turns your story and your purpose into something that is so much more for so many more people than what you originally thought when you were gonna start this book. And
I love it.
yeah,
That's very cool. So I want to ask you one more question, but before that, I just wanted, if for those of you who are listening, feel if you enjoy this, please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. You can share this with anybody you think might be relevant. We're here. My mission here is to bring honesty and clarity to the often confusing and deceptive landscape of book publishing and promotion. So that's what we're here to do. And so I guess kind of the last thing I'm curious about, Martin, how do you what is your thing? How do you operationalize this? I mean, I know that you have a thing called book seeding, which I think is very specific, but how do you go about, aside from the creation of the book, how do you then promote it? Because I know that's kind of your bread and
yeah,
butter. That's your specialty.
exactly. And thanks for that question. Obviously, I love to talk about this, so I hope it'll be short and sweet. So, assuming that we have created an awesome book, right? We had a
Mm-hmm.
great writer.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone through a beta reader process, or we have let this writer be as brilliant and creative as they can. So now we have this great book, but in addition to this book that is at a quality at a is so good that it will sell itself, right? Its
Mm-hmm.
readers will promote it. In
Mm-hmm.
addition to this great book, we also have a target audience, well defined on Meta, right? So we have 100,000, millions, whatever the target audience might be, of perfect, perfectly aligned target readers. And the most overlooked, how shall I say, secret in book promotion is the fact that the book needs to promote itself at the end of the day. You
Right.
can spend a lot of money on marketing, on events, on Amazon ads, you can spend an endless amount of money on book promotion. If
Mm-hmm.
the book doesn't have I call it a viral factor greater than one, right? So
Mm.
if one person reads your book, you have to have that person recommend it to at least two more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, all the money you're investing in promoting a book is not going to, it's not going to lead to organic growth, right? So if
Yep.
you have a viral factor that's larger than one, which is, which you have done because you hired the right writer, and if applicable, you went through a better reader process. If you have that, all you need to do is you need to get that book out there
Mm.
into enough people's hands, target readers' hands, so it starts to grow by itself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the most basic secret
Mm-hmm.
of book promotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and hardly anyone actually, executes on that. So the execution is very, very simple. Get it out there to your exact target readers,
Mm-hmm.
and get 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 copies out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if it has a viral factor larger than one, it'll start to grow. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's just basic, rule of economy here that
Mm-hmm.
if your book uh, generates two more readers and you get it to 1,000 people, it's going to start to grow. If you get it to 10,000 people, it's going to start to grow faster.
Right.
And the simple way or the obvious way of getting it out there is if you wrote a book that is for audiences that you can find at specific events. Like if you wrote a book and you can go to a conference and get
Mm-hmm.
500 or 1,000 copies into the exact target reader's hands at an event, then
Mm-hmm.
that's, one basic and very common way that people do this. But the other overlooked way is that you can use your meta defined audience to run fairly simple and straightforward video ads where you're giving your book away for free.
Mm-hmm.
And those get very good, that gets very good response, and where you can get your book into the hands of 1,000, even 10,000 readers because you have an ebook version and you promise them a free paperback version if they come back to you with their address.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fairly straightforward process. I call it book seeding, where you
I
can
love
get,
that. Book seating. It's such a cool term.
yeah, you can get 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, whatever your marketing budget is. And if the book indeed creates two more readers or three more or four more for every book that's out there and read, that's it.
Yep.
You have a book that is selling and growing. And and my
Martin, I love that. I
opinion,
mean, I just want to interject real quick, just because I think you and I kind of bonded on this point. I think this is why I originally wanted to talk to you because I heard you talking about this to somebody else at at the conference. But um, because we do a similar thing to you, but probably at a lower level, probably a little less targeted. But the giveaway thing, it's often counterintuitive for an author to give away their book, and they're like, well, how is that worth it if I'm just giving it away? But um, giving it away is the most effective way to get this initial batch of readers. And like you said, that you're looking for that 2 to 1 quotient. And if you
yeah.
really have that, if you really have a good book and you really are at 2 to 1 or more, then it's going to work and it's worth it.
Absolutely. And that's a hurdle that you often have to overcome with authors who believe that books are profitable per se, right?
Mm-hmm.
Books are not profitable per se. It's just books are very are the same as um, any other item that you would sell online. It
Mm-hmm.
costs you if you are if you're selling a book traditionally online with Amazon ads or any other ads, it costs you between 15 or $20 to acquire a new customer, right?
Yep.
There's no way you're ever going to make money with a book on that, right? The difference between selling a pizza and selling a book is the book will sell itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'll create two new customers if it is written and published the right way, right?
Hmm.
And so what you need to do is you need to get your book out there for free so it starts to sell for you. And that's
Hmm.
just, that is something that you often need to convince an author of because they feel like, okay, I'm giving my book away for free. How can that be right? It's
Hmm.
it's kind of it's a book is a very different product than, selling shirts
Right.
or it's just a very different product, and that's the essence of getting, successful book sales is to get
Hmm.
the book to sell itself and to
Hmm.
get the book seeded into your exact target readers' hands. So the readers that are going to resonate with and even if it's just, let's say if it's a memoir and it's not solving a specific problem. Um, People who read memoirs have friends who read memoirs who
Yep.
they recommend the best books that they read too, right? So
Hmm.
so it doesn't have to be a problem-solving book in order to get that viral factor
Hmm.
that ensures organic sales. And
It,
at the end of the day, you're going to spend less money on a so for example, if you did what I do for book seeding, you're going to spend less money on that than you would spend on hiring a hybrid publisher that gives you some vanity publishing feeling,
yep.
but that does all kinds of marketing busyness that doesn't really deliver any results
Yep.
whatsoever, right? You
Yeah, it's amazing, Martin. Having we have I've tried, I feel like I've tried everything under the sun when it comes to book marketing. And the most effective thing of all of those is some version of what you're talking about.
yeah,
At
is
the end of the
giving
day,
away your book.
with a good book that'll sell itself, giving it away to people. It's the
Yeah,
only thing that works. And
yeah,
and the book has to be good. And if it is, then you get the 2 to 1, like you said. People talk about it. But you also get the other benefits, right? I mean, the other ways to monetize a book would be if you have other books and they're like, "Ooh, this was awesome. I'm going to read the next one." It's like
yeah,
that's what happened with me with Morgan Housel. I read The Psychology of Money, and then when he came out with The Art of Spending, I got that one for free, right?
yeah.
And then there's also a lot of business people who, if you solve the problem, uh, if that business person has a way to monetize a sale beyond that, right? A course or workshop or consultation or anything, right? But it all starts with the book that sells itself.
Yeah, even if you're using the book as a lead magnet to your service, right?
Hmm.
The same thing applies. Obviously, if you're using your book as a lead magnet to your service, I'm not going to recommend that book to my friends until I've actually used your service.
Hmm.
So now there's a combo where your book and your service have to both be convincing and have to solve my problem.
Hmm.
But if they do, that's what's going to happen, right? That the same thing applies.
Yeah.
So whether you're using it just as a problem-solving book that doesn't have a back-end service, or whether it has a back-end service to it, it's going to be the same thing. And it's kind of it's the most obvious thing uh, where once you explain it, everybody will say, "Yeah, well, sure." Obviously, my book has to sell itself in order
Right.
to grow. But you'd be amazed by how little the traditional publishing world or the hybrid publishing world actually, you know, um, emphasizes that.
Yep.
They'll take your money and invest it in all kinds of things you don't need, and not focus on, you know,
And the
the
self-publishing
key
world also.
things. Yeah,
There's a lot of useless services out there.
yeah. And I don't want to badmouth things that are absolutely could absolutely be useful. Like if you're doing a press release, that might be useful if it is promoting the SEO of your website. If you're doing, I'm having a hard time here to think of things that are truly useful, but like
Well,
giving your book a,
running Amazon ads, if you're able to stomach that kind of loss, right? Like $15 to $20 per sale, but a sale is valuable to you in other ways, then that can
absolutely.
be a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, if you're if so so and I have customers where where I do that have a book that's actually a lead magnet to a service that's much more valuable, right? That's like hundreds or thousands of dollars, and that where it makes absolutely sense to run Amazon ads where it costs you $20 or $30 to sell a book.
Right.
So that can absolutely be a realistic situation.
Excellent. Well, Martin, this has been an awesome conversation. I knew it would be. I really appreciate your perspective. It's awesome. So where can people learn more about your company, your services?
Yeah, so at my website, cavalesso.com, I have a link to my schedule, and I'm happy to meet with anyone who's interested in learning more. I love helping aspiring authors. I love also building new relationships with ghostwriters or with small publishing services
Hmm.
like yours. I actually, I am surprised how few publishing services are out there that offer really comprehensive and good quality publishing at an affordable price like yours, right?
Hmm.
There's only two or three out there, and I think I know all of them now. And and so
That's nice. Thanks.
yeah, I just like helping um, people create great books, and I think that's, it's just one of the best things that has ever happened to me that I came to this, to this career. Um, Actually, by through a ghostwriter,
Mm.
I started my business, and I look forward to many great books that I'll be promoting over the next, coming years.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Martin. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, like and subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and please share this episode with people you think might find it useful. Have a great day.